Hi everyone, this is Michael Jeffries, and it's been 2 years since I've last done a chess video for YouTube, but a friend of mine who's an expert recently saw one of my games, a blitz game I played online, and he said, hey, you should throw that on YouTube. And so I thought, okay, what the heck. So here's the game. I was playing white, and I opened with d4, my favorite move, and my opponent playing black, and I didn't know his rating. This was just a casual blitz game online, and my last published rating was 1806, but that was several years ago. And my opponent played knight f6 and bishop g5, so we have our Trompowsky, and h6, which is one of the moves. And here I like to just drop the bishop back. You can of course take the knight, and after black recaptures, white can get a nice center, but I prefer to keep the bishop pair because I don't think white has any advantage here. So in this position I played after h6, I just dropped the bishop back to h4, and here after e6 you do not want to play pawn to e4. That's kind of a known trap. Black just plays g5, breaks the pin, and you lose a pawn. So don't do that if you're white. So to prepare that, after e6 I go ahead and play my knight out to d2, covering the e4 square, and then now maybe I'm thinking about playing e4 if my opponent will let me, but he didn't. He played d5. I brought my other knight out to f3, bishop e7, breaking the pin, e3, knight b d7, and now I decide to grab space in the center with c4. I'm kind of mixing my systems really. You should play c4 and then put the knight on c3, and but I figured, well, I'll just play an aggressive move and see what my opponent does. And here he should probably go ahead and fight back if your opponent's not doing anything, you should. And here he should play c5, and the position's equal. I don't think either side has any advantage here at all. And instead of playing c5, he played the more restrained c6, which is fine, nothing wrong with it. But c5 would have just definitely made the position dead equal. I played bishop d3, both sides castled. And now he should still play either c5 is certainly fine here, or he should actually consider even b6 so his light square bishop can come out. But he didn't do that. He played, after I castle, he played a6 and didn't really get the point of that move. I guess he's going to play b5, but it seemed like the other moves were probably a little better. So I developed my rook to the c file, rook c1. And now he took, and this isn't good because it definitely helps white for a couple of reasons. The first is, now notice that my pawn on d4 controls two squares in black's territory, the e5 and c5 square, and notice that his pawns are back here on the third row. So by taking the pressure off, he also helps me develop my knight on d2, which isn't really doing anything, and now it kind of comes in the game. So those exchanges have definitely helped white, and now he just makes a question mark move. This is definitely not a good move. c5 is good here still. Seems like c5 is good in a lot of lines for black, either c5 or sometimes e5, but more often c5. And of course Sicilian players are going, yeah, Mike, why do you think we play c5 on move 1? Just get it in early. So here he played b5, and he's going to lose a pawn here, and after knight e5 the c6 pawn is just hanging, and there's just no way to guard it. And so he decided to advance it, and then I went ahead and I could have played bishop takes knight, and if knight takes back, I can play knight c6, and the queen moves, takes, and rook takes c5. That's one way to win a pawn in this variation. That was the computer's way. That was Ripka 4's way. My way was a little different. I played knight c6 first and attacked the queen. The queen only had one square, and I think psychologically it's good to play this way anyway for humans, because it's kind of annoying, to your opponent that he realizes that I'm basically calling the shots, which is, when you're playing chess, it's fun because you're kind of pushing him around, and you always want to be the aggressor if you can. And so after the queen moves, I take off that bishop. And now I am taking advantage of the pin of the knight on f6, and I know that he wants to play c4, so bishop e4 is not too hard to find. It tempos the rook and improves the bishop. And he moved his rook, and then I went ahead and took on c5, and now he has a decision to make. And he decided to go ahead and play knight takes, knight takes pawn on c5. I just dropped the bishop back. This is the game continuation, but there's another line here. Let's see. If he let's see. Oh yeah, knight e5 right away. This is what I wanted to show you. I could have played this, and it's an interesting move. Now, if he plays knight takes e5 right away, that's not good, because then I go pawn takes. He can't move the knight, and if he's trying to do that old trick, pawn to g5, and it doesn't work here because I go pawn takes pawn, taking the knight, and I'm on the queen, so he doesn't have time to take my bishop. And after he takes on f6, I'll move the bishop and have won a piece. So that definitely does not work. So let's go back. Also here, c4 is probably would have been his best try. He could try that, and the computer gives knight c6, and it looks bad for black, but it actually, now he's out of the pin. I win a rook, but he gets the bishop on d3, and after this, you know, it's still a little bit of a fight. So let's go back, and let's see, knight takes e7, queen takes e7, bishop e4, rook b8, and so I just played pawn takes pawn, and he recaptured with the knight. And again, I can take on f6. I can play, if I want, I can play bishop takes f6, and he has to take back with the pawn because the queen needs to stay on the diagonal to guard the knight on c5. And then I can just drop the bishop back, and you know, he should play something like bishop b7 to get that thing developed. And what's funny about this is it looks like I win something here, right? I'm either checkmating the guy or the knight on c5 is falling, but he actually has a move here, not bishop e4, because that would drop the knight on c5, but of course, which I know you saw, simple knight e4, and surprisingly, I don't win anything here. So that would definitely not be the way to go. So in the game, after knight takes c5, I just dropped my bishop back because it was a great. I knew it was a great bishop, and I still, my other bishop's, you know, pinning his knight on f6. So obviously, I like my position. Here he played his. Now he could play bishop out. That would be a good move. Here the computer likes take on f6, getting s take with the pawn, and then knight d4 just to get some activity. Again, I wasn't crazy about this line, so I decided instead, after I dropped the bishop back, after I dropped the bishop back, he played his knight back, and that, I don't know, this seems like a waste of time, that move. It definitely, you can't undevelop pieces, you know, when you're behind in development. And now I go ahead and set up my battery with the queen and the bishop, looking at h7 here. And you guys know what's coming. If I can knock this knight out and this knight out, then the king's going to die a horrible death. But he kind of helps me, and you'll see what ends up happening. It's kind of interesting the way the game turned out. So, by the way, I should say that the computer actually preferred not queen c2, but the computer actually liked rook c7, pinning, and it's still really good for white, because let's say he goes there, which is interesting. He gets out of one pin, but you know, he's still in another pin, and if notice that he's getting out of the way of the rook pin on the 7th rank, but he also has to deal with my h4 bishop. So computer likes queen c2, g5, and just the sacrifice, and everything's going to go here, and then we're going to checkmate on h7. Nothing really to be done about it. So anyway, I didn't do that. Whoops, I played queen c2 right away, and now he blundered. Queen d6, and now he gave us a target. Rook d1, rook fd1, everything's in the game. He moved his queen, and now, yep, take out one defender, and bang, take the other. He can't obviously recapture because of mate on h7, so he played g6. Knight e5 came, And now he played what looked like a good move, rook c8, but do you see it? Take a moment here, and I saw it in the game, and I just had to double check my calculations. White to playing win, and yes, do not move the queen. Instead, I played knight takes g6, and here the game is over. Rook takes there, and I saw that I had this intermezzo, rook e7 check, king over, bishop takes c2, checkmate. Anyway, a rare queen sacrifice. Don't get to do it very often, but when you can, it's a lot of fun. Hope you enjoyed that. Take care. Bye-bye.